Hello friends, let us get started. I'm assuming you can all see me, hear me, and there are no issues with respect to connectivity. I will check the chats in between. So before getting started, let me just check once. Okay, looks fine to me. And so this is our second session. So what are we going to learn today? Okay, so one, different ways to interact with Azure, which is Portal, CLI, PowerShell, and even CloudShell. And then what are regions, what are paid regions, what are availability zones, and also some terms like recommended region, alternative or other region, regional service, non-regional service. Also more terms like foundational service, mainstream service, specialized service, and then also concepts such as resource groups, resource provider, and ARM, resource manager template, and even Azure Marketplace. So today we are going to have a lot of theory, but again this will set a base for whatever trainings that are yet to come. As you know, there are four main modules which I have split into five live webinar classes, and this is the second of it, which sets a platform to what we are going to learn from now on. So we covered already 20% of the things in previous class, which is mostly around cloud basics and cloud concepts. Okay, so and also apart from the technical things, you will also see thought of the week, know your teacher as usual, quiz championship, and the new 6-month cloud master learning plan which I created yesterday, so that if you follow it you can clear up to 8 certifications, all for free. Okay, yeah, certification voucher course you'll have to pay to Microsoft, only the training is free. Before learning today's topic, so these are the things that we already learned. If you have not learned these things, you can see the recording of previous class. Okay, so we learned about history of computing, bare metal, server visualization, containers, and even container orchestration. And we saw the road to cloud and beyond, data centers to cloud to serverless, and advantages of cloud computing, effect on capex and opex, features of cloud, high availability, scalability, and we saw differences of scale out and scale up, elasticity, fault tolerance, disaster recovery, low latency, and even cloud abstractions such as IaaS, PaaS, SaaS, multipass, serverless, and also the cloud deployment model such as public, private, and hybrid cloud. And also we quickly went through the AZ-900 topics and how to prepare. We will start as usual with the thought of the week and general announcements, then a little bit about the teacher who is me, but I will not go into depth like last time because that was the first. So this today I will just run through it. Again, AZ-900 blueprint also I will run through it, and Azure architecture is our major topic of discussion, and then we will have a quiz that will have sample questions from Azure architecture, which will make sure that you understand whatever we discuss here, and also get better prepared for your exam. And again, as usual, we will end with a career talk and discussion about our initiatives. Okay, so thought of the week: without persistence, you will be defeated even before you start. With persistence, you will win. Okay, so again, this is from the same book that I shared the quote last week. You need to be persistent in learning something. Most of the time I have seen people just registering for courses, free or even paid, and they do not complete it at all. So usually university courses you complete because you have a deadline, but most of the courses you buy from these platforms does not have that it does not have that deadline. So it is available for you to take any time, and because of that you actually take it very lightly and eventually do not complete it. Okay, so let us move forward, and before that, does anybody here remember what was the thought of the week last week? At least a rough answer would help. Okay, Bonnie said it right, we should not stop learning. Okay, so again it was a quote from the book. Yeah, Dinesh has mentioned networking with others. Yeah, that was my thought towards the end, that you need to have networking and community. But the thought of the week was that you need to continue learning even after you have finished your school. Okay, so let us continue. And just an overview. So this is the these are the skills measured currently for Azure AZ-900. There will be a few changes here and there with respect to percentage and all when Microsoft actually updates it. But again, most of the things that we learn will not be a waste of time. So whenever new things come, we will add those new concepts also to the course so that you can learn. Know the teacher, I will just run through it. Okay, I'm an author, architect and tech evangelist. I have a few master's degrees, I have a few certifications, I worked in a few good companies, and I run few blogs. I'm not talking a lot because I have explained all these things in last class. Again, I have written few books, and one of my book has become 8th on all time best cloud computing books, and I speak in meetups and conferences. And I also take webinars for engineering colleges, and I read a lot, and this is my library, which used to be my background earlier before lockdown and before me coming to my native and creating this new setup. And my teaching goal for 2020 is to teach at least 100,000 students and probably become also an Microsoft most valuable professional. And I am still working and get paid, so I don't look for any payment. One question always people ask why I conduct this training for free, whether there is a catch and all those things. Okay, and now AZ-900 certification blueprint. Okay, so we have seen these things again. So first is describe cloud concepts, which we already covered, and then core services. There are some architectural components, and then there are some components related to services. So I have split it into two classes, one for architectural components and the basics, and then next for other advanced things. And again, security is a very important topic, and one of my expert areas also. So we will see security in depth. And finally, all the bookkeeping, pricing, SLAs, life cycles and all those things. So even if you are not planning to take this certification, it is still going to be a good starting platform or starting place for you to explore Azure. So okay, let us take a pause and then continue with our class. Okay, so how can you interact with Azure? So one way is Azure portal, one way is Azure CLI, and another is Azure PowerShell, and there is one more which I have not put here, which is Azure CloudShell. Azure portal, that is where you actually go and do things from the website in simple terms. And I had shared a recipe in the course page to create your Azure account. So if you have not done so, you can create it and then practice it. Okay, and the advantage is you can access through web and mobile devices. So what is Azure CLI? CLI means command line interface. It is more stable than Portal. So most of the times the UI gets changed very frequently. So if I put many screenshots here, that screenshots may not be applicable after some time. But in most cases, whatever CLI commands you learn and implement, it stays for longer time without much changes. And most of the commands follow a similar pattern, so that it is easy to learn once you learn few of them, and you can automate and reuse the CLI commands. So if you are doing something from UI, you will always have to do those things again and again. But when you are doing through CLI, you can automate through various scripts, and everything can be run again and again without writing those commands again. Okay, that is the advantage of CLI, and the advantage is same for any cloud. And PowerShell, which is not limited to Azure, it is a Microsoft tool that is useful in a variety of situations. You can use the PowerShell even for Azure also. Okay, you can use the CMDlets that are provided for connecting to Azure, and you can work with Azure through PowerShell. Okay, so now comes CloudShell, which is what I would call kind of more innovative way of interacting with Azure. I don't think most cloud providers have anything similar to this. So you can interact with browser-based shell, you can access from web or mobile app. It is of course authenticated and secure, and the best part is once you go to CloudShell, you can choose between CLI, which is bash based, or PowerShell, and you can also work on your languages through the interpreters provided. You can persist data between sessions, so that you don't have to type everything again and again. And it has also an integrated file editor. So this is something which should be good to explore. Again, this course, it is not a hands-on course, so I will not show a lot of live examples here, but if you are interested, I will provide more and more recipes, and then we can have labs outside of this course, just to practice those things and get familiar. For the certification, labs are not required, but definitely it will enhance your knowledge. Okay, so do try to practice as I suggest, or whatever you want, ask doubts, and then we can all learn together. Okay, so if you are interested, I am happy to conduct lab sessions also. Okay, and so you can go to CloudShell through this icon that is usually next to the search bar, and once you click on that, you will get this option that is shown here, whether to go to the bash or whether to go to the PowerShell, and once you click on that, you can continue using the tool. Okay, so explore all these things. Explore Portal is the first thing that you will anyway explore. Then explore CLI, explore CloudShell, explore PowerShell, explore everything. So eventually your goal should be to become an architect. Everybody. Okay, so when you say an architect, you should have depth of knowledge in some areas and breadth of knowledge in all other areas. Then only you can be a good architect. Otherwise, you will run into a problem called as a golden hammer problem, where you know only few things. You may know it well also, but you will have a tendency to choose that a solution for every problem, which is not the case. Important terminologies related to Azure data centers. First one is region. Then Azure has something called as a paid region, and then there is also something called as availability zones. Okay, what is a region? So region is a set of data centers in geographical region. So geographical region can be like North America or India. So there can be multiple geographical regions. So within that you will have a set of data centers. And with Azure you can have more than one region within a big geographical region. For example, North America may have more than one regions inside it, and connected through a low latency network. So whatever data centers that are available within a region are connected through a low latency network, so that the communication happens very fast. And also all data centers within a latency defined perimeter, so that means they are closer to each other, and then they can communicate very fast. Okay, and there is one small assignment for you, which is to find out what are the regions currently available in Azure. Okay, you can note down all these assignments. You don't have to do it now, but you can submit it after the class through Facebook group, or through mail, or through any means, because I want you to participate, not just watch it as a movie. So then only you will grow, otherwise only I will grow, right? So you might think how I will grow when I am doing it for free, because whenever you teach somebody, you learn those things better. I always believe that sharing knowledge improves your knowledge. Okay, so anybody of you want to share your knowledge, you can let me know, and I will provide all these platforms for free, and then you can teach. What is a paired region? So paired region is a concept in Azure where you will have a paired region for every primary region. So if something happens to the primary region, the goal is that the paired region will be available for use. For this purpose, Azure does not update these two regions at the same time, and some of the services even replicate data automatically between these paired regions, and these are mostly within the same geographical area, but there are few exceptions. So I think there is one exception. I don't think new exceptions have come. So the general assignment is find the list of paired regions, and the special assignment is find a paired region where they are not within the same geographical area. Okay, so first person to let me know will get a special gift. Again, what are availability zones? Availability zones are unique physical locations within a region. What do you mean by physical location? So within a region such as North America, or a region like US East or 2 or something within North America, even within that locality there will be lot of different areas, and in one of those areas Microsoft or any of the cloud providers might set up few of their data centers which are close to each other with their own power, cooling, networking, etc. So that if one of those data centers are lost due to power, cooling, or networking issues, other availability zones which are little bit away from these with separate power, cooling, and network can still work, and eventually provide the promise of high availability. So we learned about high availability last week, right? So eventually it will provide that promise of high availability, and for that purpose Microsoft also provides some guarantee of minimum 3 availability zones are present in all regions. Actually, you cannot say all regions, as we will see. There are some regions which does not support availability zones, and that can also be one question that you might be tested in exams. Okay, so more terminologies. Recommended region is a region that provides broadest range of service capabilities and is designed to support availability zones now or in future. Okay, this is where I mentioned about not all regions supporting availability zones. When you say recommended region, it supports availability zones now or even in future, and so these are generally designated as recommended. And you have also other or alternate regions that does not support availability zones currently, and so these are designated as other. You can use them as a backup or for other purposes. And also, what is a regional service? A regional service is deployed regionally and enables customers to specify region into which the service is deployed. And non-regional, as you might have guessed from the name, it is something which is not specific to any Azure regions. And as I have mentioned before, a geographical area may have more than one region. Example, North America has EES, East US, West US, etc., and many more. And one thing, so whenever I mention few terms, I might accidentally mention something from the AWS side, because I work extensively on both the platforms. So I hope you will be able to distinguish it. Okay, if I make big mistakes, you are free to let me know, and then I will correct it. And data transfer between regions are charged as usual. What is that usual? So this is a thing that most cloud providers follow. So what is incoming is free, what is outgoing is not free. Okay, so Amazon follows it, Microsoft follows it. Always incoming data is free because you are getting a business. Outgoing data, even though it is between regions, or even if you are going out of business, in every case it is easy for a cloud provider to just charge for whatever going out. Even even when somebody uses your service, again data will go out, right? So that is a general pricing model. And again you have different kinds of services related to regions. For example, a foundation service is a core service that is available in all regions when that region is generally available. And mainstream service is a service that is available in all regions within 12 months of the region or service becoming generally available. And specialized service, even your on-premise private cloud technologies such as VMware can be hosted on cloud. Okay, so everybody are moving to cloud, and that is why cloud is not a optional thing anymore. And some more terms. Resource is a manageable item that is available through Azure. And what is a resource group? As you might have guessed correctly, it is a logical container that holds related resources for an Azure solution. And what is a resource provider? It is a term used by Microsoft to denote a concept or a category that will provide a set of resources. For example, compute is a category that supplies virtual machine resources. And again, to automate things, we have a resource manager template, which is a JSON file, and which has a declarative syntax. What do you mean by declarative syntax? You do not write any programming scripts. Instead, you just write what you want in a declarative format, and you get those things provisioned for you. Every cloud provider these days have one or the other way to automatically provision resources, which is an important part of DevOps practices. And we can also use tags to organize resources within resource groups. Okay, resource groups are one way to categorize things, and then you can use tags. Okay, so tags, you can tag a few things, and then you might use it for cost calculation. So whether what cost is incurred by all these resources or resource groups that are tagged. So you can have many use cases for this. Okay, so we will explore some of these things like tags and all in more detail in our upcoming next course on 104. Okay, AZ 104, and so don't worry. But whatever is required for clearing certification we will learn here, and the more and more we will learn along with the next upcoming course. So these are 10 commandments for resource groups that you can learn by heart, and most of these will definitely come for your exams also. First one, as we saw, they are used to group resources logically. Second, every resource should be part of some resource group. And third, each resource can be part of only one resource group at a time, but you can move. Okay, that is for we can move resources across resource groups, that is possible. A resource group can contain resources from multiple regions, that is again possible. Resources within a group can access resources from other group, that is also possible. If you delete a resource group, all the resources in that resource group will be deleted. Okay, so this is a good practice whenever you do labs and all. Every time you do a lab, create a resource group, put all the things that you are building or using, all the services that you are using within that resource group, and at the end of the lab just delete that resource group. I have seen people who have created many things as part of many labs and forgetting to delete some of the things, and eventually getting paid. Okay, not getting paid, so eventually having to pay Azure for using those services without intentionally using those services. Okay, so that is a very good practice to follow. And we can use RBAC. Okay, what do you mean by RBAC? Yeah, Manibharati has mentioned it correctly. Okay, it is a role-based access control. So it is a generic term, not specific to Azure. Okay, Azure Resource Manager is a tool or the interface through which all your interactions with Azure happen. So even if you are using Azure tools or APIs or SDKs or whatever it is, it goes through the Resource Manager, and the Resource Manager has its own templating system, as we already saw, called Azure Resource Manager templates. And this is a JSON file that you can use to do what? To define your infrastructure in a declarative way. Okay, this concept is generally referred to as what? Infrastructure as code. Okay, so finally there is also one more thing that you will need to learn for your exams, which is Azure Marketplace. What do you mean by Azure Marketplace? It is a place where Microsoft or even partners can sell solutions or products or services, and then we can buy. It can be a free product or a paid solution, and you can interact with Marketplace through Portal or CLI or PowerShell. Okay, so we will again take a pause, and then we will continue. Okay, so in this pause I will just set up the quiz for you. Give me a second. So today we just learned a few terms, actually quite a lot of terms. So some of these things will be clear when we actually go through the quiz. And again, if you have doubts, I will have a doubts clearing session just to clarify all your doubts. But that will be a Zoom meeting instead of a Zoom webinar, where we can all share our screens and we can all practice together. Okay, our labs are kind of different from our theory sessions, because in labs everybody can share their screen. Here only I can share, or other panelists can share their screens, but in lab everybody can share their screen, show me your issues, the issues that you are facing, and then we will fix it real time. Okay, so okay, so here comes the most interesting part, which is the quiz and talk part, where we will see the questions and also we will discuss theory. It is not a pure quiz where we will only see the question, answers and score. We will also discuss things alongside the quiz. So that is why I call it as a quiz and talk. Okay, can you all go to heartin.live from your mobile or computer or wherever you want to attend the quiz, or you can type this polyv.com/heartinjk999, or if you want to be working in a low latency environment, then you might also install an app called as Poll Everywhere, and then when it asks for username, you can mention heartinjk999. Okay. Can we ensure that the services running on the virtual machines are available if a single data center fails by deploying the virtual machines to 2 or more availability zones? Okay, most of you said yes, that is correct. So an availability zone. Okay, so an availability zone will have its own data centers that are separate from other availability zones. So if one or all of the data centers within an availability zone fail, if you have deployed your virtual machine to 2 or more availability zones, your data is still available in other availability zones. Okay, so majority of you made it right. Okay, so score is top for everybody. Can we ensure that services running on virtual machines are available if a single data center fails? Same situation like before, by deploying virtual machines to 2 or more regions. Okay, majority of you said it right. So if you answered it wrong, because data centers are mapped to availability zones, so they may not have thought about it in detail. So availability zones are just within a region, right? So if you have more than one region, that means one availability zone or one data center within a region is failing. So that does not mean other region will have any problem, right? So other region is safe and secure. So this is little more better than having it only within multiple availability zones. Again, most cloud providers will have their own limitations. Okay, their own restrictions, not limitations, restrictions on moving data automatically between regions until we configure. This is because of compliance reasons. So certain businesses will have a compliance reason to hold their data only within a geographical area. Azure resources can only access other resources in the same resource group. Hope you remember what a resource group is, and we had also seen that 10 commandments for resource groups. Okay, it is false. Majority of you said it right. Azure resources can access other resources in different resource group also. Okay, yeah, they can access. It is only a logical group that lets you manage few things such as permissions and other things easily. We covered only until 8. So suddenly I remembered somehow I forgot to say about 9 and 10. So 9 is that similar to RBAC. So RBAC is about permissions. Whenever you apply permissions at a root level, let it be subscription level, let it be resource group level, it is always inherited by the underlying resources. But whenever you apply a tags on a root level, like a resource group level or a subscription level, they are not inherited by the resources. You have to use something like Azure policies to make sure they are inherited. Okay, that is about 9. And finally 10, resource group is not a resource. Okay, resource is not a resource group, is a logical container for set of resources, but it is not a resource. Okay, so these are the 10 commandments for resource groups. We covered only until half of 8 previously, and somehow I missed it. So so now I hope you will not forget it, and let us go back to our quiz again, because the questions will be coming from that, and suddenly I realize, okay, we did not see it completely. Okay, so so scoreboard is happening. So somebody is even attending the quiz with my name, By the way, it is not me. So if you delete a resource group, all the resources in the resource group will be deleted. Is it true or false? So all of you answered it correctly. Yeah, so people are still fighting for the top spot. A resource group can contain resources from multiple Azure regions. And meanwhile, there is also one more advantage for asking questions in the chat as opposed to Q&A, because chat anybody can answer. So don't think that only I can answer. I do not say that I am an expert and know everything. I just teach whatever I know. Okay, I am more of an expert in AWS because I have authored 2 books, but Azure and even AWS, I always believe that I am always a student. Okay, I learn from any opportunity that I get. It might be from books, it might be from tutorials, it might be from you also, because you are all working as IT professionals or researching a lot, learning a lot. So if when somebody asks a question and if you feel like you know the answer, just answer it there. So don't wait for me to answer it, and if it is wrong, I will try to correct it also. So we should be like a community. It should be like I am your teacher and you are a student, and then you are not supposed to tell anything. So we are all our own teachers. Okay, we can all learn from each other. That is the only way to learn properly. Nobody in this world can say that I know everything. Can we ensure that the services running on the virtual machines are available if a single data center fails by deploying the virtual machines to 2 or more resource groups? Okay, can we ensure that services running on virtual machines are available if a single data center fails, our same scenario, by deploying the virtual machines to 2 or more resource groups? What would we learn about resource groups? Resource groups means it can be within the same region, so it does not have any relationships with the region or availability zones or data center for that matter. It is not directly related. Okay, for that purpose, you cannot be sure that okay, if I put everything into 2 resource group, it will be saved. Okay, so many of you mentioned it wrongly. So these are the kind of questions that will come in your exams also. Okay, so remember it. Okay, new people have come to top 10. North America is represented by a single Azure region. True or false? Okay, North America, I mentioned it twice. So there are multiple regions within North America area, North America geographical area, and even provided some examples also for same. At least 2 examples I provided and said etc. etc. So do not forget, a single geographical area can have more than one region. Every Azure region has multiple data centers. So all these are different versions of whatever we have learned. Okay, so when we go to the theory, you will learn only a part of it. But when you ask yourself questions from different perspectives, different angles, you will learn better. So don't feel bad if your answer is wrong, but be happy that now you have learned it. Okay, majority of you said right, because every Azure region can have multiple availability zones. Availability zones have data centers within it. Data transfers between Azure services located in different Azure regions are always free. Is it true or false? So in most of the cases, incoming is free, outgoing is chargeable. So sometimes when 2 people answer, the tool will give more scores to the first person who answered it. Okay, you can implement availability zones in all regions, true or false. I told about 2 different kinds of regions, right? one which support availability zones and one that do not support availability zones. So what does that mean? That means in simple layman terms that there are regions that does not support availability zones. You cannot implement availability zones or high availability logic or scenarios based on availability zones in those regions. Okay, so few answered it correctly as false, but majority answered it wrong. Okay, new people are coming into top 10, so nothing is limiting you. Only virtual machines that run a Windows server can be created in availability zones. This should be a very easy question. Okay, majority of you answered it correctly. So no cloud provider can survive with only one type of server or one type of operating system. Even if Microsoft has developed Windows, they still have to support other operating systems if they want to survive. Okay, not much change. Availability zones are used to replicate data and application to multiple regions. True or false? Okay, availability zones are within a region. Okay, it is not multiple regions. Okay, so you have regions, and within that region you have availability zones, and within that availability zones you have data centers. Okay, so availability zones cannot be used to replicate data and applications to multiple regions. It is within a region. Okay, don't forget that. Okay, some changes. An Azure region dash contains one or more data centers that are connected using a low latency network, is found in each country where Microsoft has a subsidiary of is. So this was shared by one of my students. So you can also share interesting questions that you come across anywhere that you are finding it difficult to answer, or you feel it will be a good fit to my question bank. Okay, most of you answered it correctly. Contains one or more data centers that are connected using a low latency network. Okay, one person mentioned almost correctly, but with high latency, right? Should be a low latency. Latency means the time it takes to transfer data, right? So it should be low. It should be very low. Which of these types of failure can an Azure availability zone be used to protect access to Azure resources? Okay, it is a data center failure. Which tools can be used to run the Azure CLI? Can choose up to 2, but if it is not allowing you to choose 2, just choose 1. Okay, command prompt and Windows PowerShell. There is nothing called as Azure Resource Explorer that can be used for this purpose. Not much changes here. Can I run a PowerShell script that creates Azure resources from a computer that runs Linux and has the Azure CLI tools installed? Okay, so it has mentioned, so PowerShell is not by default. You can install PowerShell in Ubuntu and all, even Mac also, but you have to install. But here it is a Linux machine and it has only CLI tools installed. So you have to check those things. Okay, PowerShell comes by default only in Windows, even Windows, I think Windows 10 and above, I believe. This is not specific to Azure, so this is general knowledge which you can gain through these kind of discussions. Okay, can I run a PowerShell script that creates Azure resources from a computer that runs Chrome OS and uses Azure CloudShell? Okay, majority of you answered it correctly. From CloudShell, you can choose to run either a bash script or a PowerShell script. You already saw the screenshots also, right? Can I run a PowerShell script that creates Azure resources from a computer that runs macOS and has a PowerShell Core 6 installed? Okay, you have answered it correctly. I think, in fact, I have given clue in the previous question itself. New people coming to top 10, good to see. What are two Azure management tools that you can use to manage the settings of an Azure web app from an iPhone? Okay, Azure portal. From iPhone, you cannot run CLI. So most appropriate answers are portal and CloudShell. Okay, majority of you answered it correctly. I thought I had made a simple question out of it. So let me. All the Azure resources deployed to a single resource group must share the same Azure region. True or false? False. You answered it correctly. We had discussed it within the presentation. Within a single resource group, you can have regions. You can have resources belonging to multiple regions. If you assign a tag to a resource group, all the resources in that resource group are assigned to that same tag. True or false? I had specifically reminded you that permissions are transferred to or inherited by the resources, but tags are not inherited. You have to use something. What you have to use? You have to use Azure policies to help you do that. We will learn about Azure policies when we learn about the security. If you set permissions to a resource group, all the resources in that resource group inherit the permissions. True or false? Yeah, most of you answered it correctly. Identify which Azure management tools can be used in Windows 10 operating system. Okay, most of you answered it correctly. You can use CLI or you can use Portal or you can use PowerShell, all from Windows 10 operating system. Identify which Azure management tools can be used in Ubuntu operating system. Which of these tools will work in Ubuntu operating system? I believe I have given a hint in one of the previous questions. Okay, you can, I mentioned, right? So PowerShell can be used in Ubuntu also. You will have to install it. So it is not like, it may not come by default, but you can install it and use it. Identify which Azure management tools can be used in Mac OS operating system. Yeah, this time nobody should make any mistake, because we have seen the question already 2 times and this is the 3rd time. So if you just attend these sessions and attend all the live quiz questions and again see these and then practice it, you are sure to pass the exam. Okay, majority of you answered it correctly, because you are using more than one medium. You are hearing it, you are seeing it, and you are touching it by answering. Okay, so more than one sense is actually working towards the goal of learning, and it is more effective than only 1 or 2 of the senses working. Dash a common platform for deploying objects to a cloud infrastructure and for implementing consistency across Azure environments. I had mentioned it during the session. Majority of you answered it correctly. It is Azure Resource Manager templates that provide a common platform for deploying objects to cloud infrastructure and for implementing consistency across the Azure environment. You need to create a VM using the command AZ VM create some command. Will this solution work? From the Azure portal, launch Azure CloudShell and select bash and run the command in CloudShell. Will it work? Yes or no? Yeah, majority of you answered correctly. It was a straightforward question. Note may change here. So I am seeing only top 10, but that does not mean your efforts are not counted. Can I use Azure portal to create a new Azure virtual machine from a tablet that runs Android operating system? Yeah, this same way all of you made it right. I need to run a command from a. Can I do it from a computer that runs Windows 10, installing AWS CLI, and from command prompt I sign into Azure and then run the command. A very straightforward question. Yeah, you can do it. It is a very straightforward question. Your company has several business units with the same 20 different Azure resources for daily operations. What should you include in the recommendations for tools or services to use? Okay, most of you answered it correctly. It is Azure Resource Management Group Manager templates, ARM templates. An availability zone in Azure has physically separate locations. Okay, most of you answered it correctly within a single Azure region. So, irrespective of whether you win the quiz or whether you are doing it for certification, you should always note down your mistakes and ask yourself why I made that mistake and whether I understand now whether my answer was wrong. Okay, otherwise ask me those questions and I will help you out. Can I create a new Azure virtual machine from a tablet that runs Android operating system using bash in Azure CloudShell? Yes, answer is correct. It was also kind of straightforward. Can I create a new Azure virtual machine from a tablet that runs Android operating system? So PowerShell in CloudShell. Again, some simple questions in different forms. Can you run a PowerShell script that creates Azure resources on a computer that runs Windows 10 and has our Azure PowerShell module installed? It is yes. Okay, so this is the final result. Okay, so let us go quickly to the pending things. So all these initiatives related to cloud, I do it through my blog, which is cloudrix.com, where we learn, where we innovate, and where we author. Okay, and how do we learn? So we don't just learn for preparing for a certification, we learn the concepts around it. For example, when we prepare for AZ-900, we will learn cloud concepts. When we learn for AZ-104, we learn basic administration. And if it is DP900 or DP200, so there is a typo there, so we will learn data principles. And if it is AZ-500, we will learn IT security principles. And if it is AZ-304, we will learn architecture principles. And if it is AZ-204, we learn standard developer practices. and if it is AZ-400, we will learn DevOps practices. Okay, as promised initially, this is our current learning plan. AZ-900 is what we are learning now. In September, we plan to learn AZ-104, and October we will focus on data. So we'll learn DP-900 and even DP-200. So when you say data, there will be a lot of other things that you can learn. So for example, how many of you know what is a cap theorem? Without knowing cap theorem, you can pass these exams, but you will not do a lot good in real world. Okay, so that is where we will learn such things around data when we learn about or prepare for data related certification. So cap theorem says the cap is consistency, availability, and partition tolerance. It says that no database can have all these features, but they can have at most 2 of these. So generally, most of the relational databases will have consistency and availability, whereas most of the NoSQL databases have availability and partition tolerance. And next is AZ-500, Azure Security Engineer Associate. Even though it say associate, so this is a very good exam, very tough exam also, and then you will need to learn a lot around that around security. Okay, and again, so how many of you know here about the AAA triad? And how many of you have heard this term called CAA? So whenever you are learning about security, so you have to learn about those important practices or important terms, market terms, and all those things. Otherwise, if you directly jump into these certifications, you might pass a certification, but you will not be effective in your work. Okay, again, when you say AZ-300, we will learn about architecture principles, so that you can become an actual architect, not just a certification specialist, right? Again, AZ-200, 204 is for developer associate, and AZ-500 is for DevOps engineer expert. Okay, for DevOps engineer expert exam, you have to either take AZ-204 or AZ-104. So both of them we will be covering, but since the developer and DevOps are more closely related to each other, in Jan 2021 we will focus on that. So that is for really serious people who want to learn full time, or who want to learn with more dedication. Okay, these are some references from today's sessions. As I mentioned, everything is not covered, but you can read more and more from these references, and then you can learn better. Okay, and as always, keep in touch. Any other questions? So before winding, just answer one question and then we can wind. Have you learned anything new today? Okay, so somebody has asked, I want to talk to you if possible. Yeah, sure. So again, so this is streamed across many platforms, so many people will be talking to me over chat and all, but speaking to everybody might be a problem. So I have put a restriction, so everybody from Buddy Cult, I will give my calendar, so you can book a slot from that calendar. Okay, I can book a available slot from that calendar, and during that time we can talk in person. Okay, I will share the calendar soon. I'm just getting it ready. Okay, so you can book a slot. There is no fee, but again, I don't want to overcommit myself, nor I don't want to put all burden of maintaining those things on my own. So you can book, we can find out a slot, book, and we can all talk. Okay, so bye bye for now, and see you all next week with Azure core services in a bit more depth. Until then, bye bye. Okay, do send mail to support@buddytutorial.com with your score, and let us all work towards, and then let us all grow towards a successful IT career. Okay, bye bye for now. and see you all soon.